Hi, I'm Dmitri Wright. We're at the Trimper Art Gallery in Greenwich, Connecticut, and you're about to see my one-man show. Over here is one of my earlier works when I first moved to Greenwich. It's a Mindscape, or I call my Mindscape series, and it's experiential based upon the different storms that we've seen from our home and trying to capture the sense of wind and the changing of light. So when I started to explore some of the ideas of what I call dangerous beauty, to see the storms, but starting to take in how beautiful it is at the same time. The birds are metaphors for ideas on how you can almost have something that's catastrophe-like conditions, but yet the birds are soaring and playing in it. This vortex tornado sort of effect that's happening here, and that's causing the bird to spread its wings, and the trees are being tossed and so forth. And so I tried to have different types of music. There's the atmospheric music, then there's what the trees are doing, like a ballet, smaller floral elements, and then the birds. So I'm creating a jam session of all these things working together. I think my work is a combination of classical ideas and jazz ideas. The classical ideas would be more structured, 1, 2, 3, ABC, kind of more logical concepts. The jazz elements would be improvisational insights and take advantage of opportunities as they occur. So from works like this, I start to generate insights about the creative process, and I start to evolve towards other ideas. I did do other works like this, and they were nocturnes, and the nocturne experience is going to return again with some of the later works. From there, the next works would be over here. These are my Weir Farm Daffodil series, and like the birds are symbolic, the daffodils are symbolic in these. At Weir Farm National Historical Park, the only national park dedicated to painting, I'm their master artist instructor, and I teach Impressionist painting there, outdoors. And these daffodils came from experiences I've had where I'm on my knees, actually trying to capture the portrait-like appearance of the daffodils. So I try to make each one a different type of personality. So like a movie, you might have a lead actor. You also will have supporting actors, hence the apple trees and the apple trees in blossom. And here, the juxtaposition of the trunk of the tree being somewhat hideous and grotesque against the crown, which is glorious, that contrast I found very exciting. Also the contrast of spring. You could have a very beautiful type of day and then it could jump very cold and brutal. But regardless of that, the flowers can push through snow and ice, and they're such welcome sights in relationship to all of that. You can see I've included a figure here, which is myself. Oftentimes I will do that as a compositional element, and also it works well for scale. And I'm trying to show that I was there, so to kind of show that this is a plein air experience. This is a different type of day and feeling and mood, temperament I'm trying to spell out here. So in one I might explore one type of experience, but here's something totally different. Here I started to canvas in this kind of purpley sort of color, whereas this one I painted to canvas yellow, and I started to work the composition. It's almost like a musician working in a key of something. And so this key is more high key colors, and it's a more brilliant painting, and I'm trying to show the great sunlight that's there. And you can see here, I put myself in with a different type of gesture to try to tie in with that whole experience. Okay, moving along, I would say the next guys would be here. This one is an interesting story because one of my students is a world-class gardener, and she gave me an iris, which is this character right here, and I was just about so big. So I brought it back to my studio and I decided I wanted to do a painting of it. So I did some sketches, studies, preliminaries, and other types of insights into it to kind of charge myself up so I can know how to interpret it as a painting. And then once I had that done, then I took the same flower and I repeated it again to create a composition. So it's kind of like Diana Ross and the Supremes. I have the main character, then I have the background characters to create a musical. The rhythms that are set up in the flower itself will kind of compose how the rhythms will go with the rest of the painting. You can see that this type of work is very different than this. Here it's an outdoor scene that I'm trying to match. Here it's one flower where I'm trying to communicate something far more subtle, interesting, and complex about it, and create kind of a jazz session, a jam session, I should say, a variation off of a theme. I had a lot of fun with that. It was very, very challenging. Next would be, I guess, these guys right here. And these are called Meadows. And I was seeing the meadow as an event horizon, a place where these flowers and things will compress towards a conclusion, and then it would meet the sky and move up. But the goal was to paint it in a more abstract and abstracted technique. Not spell out the flowers in a botanical type of way, not draw them, but simply use gestures and mark making to communicate feelings and ideas. And those feelings and ideas creates kind of a musical array in relationship to light and color. So it was a lot of fun trying to figure out how to create a language, a visual painting language. This painting was very challenging because it hurt. I have to do these really big movements, and after doing it, I was so sore, I thought that I probably would never want to work that large again. But I gave it some time and says, I'm going back. Well, I did go back with this right here. This was in the faculty show at the Silver Mine Art Center, and it got such notoriety that I figured I would like to continue the subject again. So I just booked up and decided to focus on it. This one has a yellow underpainting, which is this color first, and then working the different colors on top. Whereas this one has this a darker yellow. And so it's in a different key. So it's the same space, but it's like it's a different time of day, and perhaps looking slightly differently at the space. So working with smaller staccato elements and becoming larger and larger into bigger gestures and strokes. And again, not trying to have finality as to the type of flower it is, but trying to let the flowers become proxy for ideas which are very interesting. You can see some leaf-like forms and flower-like forms, things overlapping, compressing. Almost the same type of feeling one would get when one does go through a meadow, and I've seen many meadows throughout my career. After this came these little guys over here. So I like to do miniatures as well, and I have some which are even smaller than this. They allow me to work very quickly. They also allow me to have different price points for different people, that not everyone can have a very large work in their home, but they may like to have something smaller. So they're a lot of fun. I can explore a lot of ideas very quickly, very much different types of ideas being put together simultaneously and have fun. I believe that this guy was probably the first, second, third, and then fourth. And so they're close together, but just kind of variations off of a theme. And the goal was to capture the space of the meadow using aerial perspective, mathematical perspective with a diminution, things moving back towards compression, but also light and color. And that's the goal of the painting. Again, not using any sort of representational ideas of drawing as to how flowers and grasses should be, but using marks and gestures to kind of communicate that, to create that illusion. From that, we go to this guy right here. All of my paintings learn from one another. And so sometimes after working more representationally, as in this piece over here, I will explore stuff which is much more abstract. And the abstract ideas means that I believe that the viewer is going to be more sophisticated and does not need things spelled out. And I will allow myself to take risks and to start something and then to see how the story is going to end as I do it. And so the painting process is much more expressive, it's much more dynamic. Rather than spelling things out in a pictorial sort of manner, it's about the way the paint caresses one another or contrasts, explodes against layers that creates kind of a visual language, which is pretty complex. Some people prefer the more abstract works and others like things more representational. But throughout my body of work, I've always kind of played between this is a representational idea, meaning that it's a particular time, place, or season. Then I have other works where, well, it's basically an idea and it's a theme, and I'm not so sure what it is myself, but the viewers will determine what they see. Sometimes the artist wants to be a facilitator, where they simply set things up for an event to happen and then sits back and watch what the public will see. From here to my latest works. Again, event horizons, but these were inspired by Maine. I've been to different parts of the world, but this is I would say my main series. I was trying to take some ideas of the New York school, which is broken down into two main approaches, a color field painting and a gesture painting, mark making. So the color field would be like Rothko, whereas the mark making would be like de Kooning. So I create a environment first with larger strokes of paint, larger bodies of paint. That creates a mood. And then within that mood, you have these little chapters and sub-chapters, stories, characters, cavort, spin, play within this kind of world. And it creates an idea. And each one I try to make a little different. So it started with this guy first, and this was important because it opened the door to the series. And then that to this one, and then to here, and then finalizing with that. So now, now that I've achieved this array, I finally got a vision as to how I'd like to proceed with the next body of work. I'm thinking about going back to my Italian series. In other words, I was in Farnese, Italy, but I would like to work from my imagination, but reimagine using that Italian landscape. So I probably will go back to my experiences in France and other areas of the world, but take the contemporary ideas I'm doing now and apply them forward. Thank you, Dmitri Wright.